Well,
Hi.
hello, Lisa. This is
Hi.
Sharon on the West Coast.
Oh my God. Hi, Sharon. This is Lisa on the East Coast. Yeah.
And we're talking about heart health today, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We are talking about heart health, and it is such a important topic, such a timely topic any month, but especially this month.
Yes. This month it is the Go Red for women. And actually, all the information that we'll be sharing is from the Go Red for Women website. But amazingly, do you know why it's such a big thing for women specifically?
Well, I'm not sure if this is what you're looking for, but I found out some years ago that more women die from heart disease than from any other cause. I was just totally blown away since you hear more talk about cancer and other diseases, not so much about heart disease in women. It's perceived in the public to be a male, predominantly male situation or disease.
Right, that's so true. And what happens is that women, we have different symptoms, first of all, than men do, for one
Mhm.
thing. And then secondly, they always assume, that men having high stress jobs and physical labor and so forth, that is, that's a man's issue.
Yeah,
Well, guess
breeding
what?
ground.
Over the last 20 years, what's happened?
Yeah, the data has not backed up that perception that the dynamics of a man's life is perceived to be a breeding ground for heart disease and heart attacks. And it was so accepted that nobody was really paying attention for many, many years. It was just assumed by not only the public, but the medical community. And then
Exactly.
a few people started doing studies and they started looking at the statistics, it blew everyone away.
Exactly. That is that women, we are not all working at home as mothers. I mean, well, we are working at home as mothers, but in addition to that, we have outside jobs that are just as stressful, just as physically laborious as men.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take into consideration heredity.
Mm-hmm. Heredity. And you know what? Typically women go to the job and they bring their stresses back home with them, and they just mix it in with the other hats they wear, the mom hat, the wife hat, the housekeeper hat. And so the term super mom or superwoman is not just the figment of your imagination. Women really, somehow we found ourselves trying to be super people, or superheroes, trying to do it all and have it all. And it causes us to have even more of the situations and stresses that were that society or the medical community thought was driving the heart conditions in men. We have it in spades. We
Yeah.
really do, more so than men oftentimes, because we wear so many more different hats.
Yes. And then you look at heredity and then diet. And we specifically as African Americans, wow.
Ham
Our
hock.
diet, yeah, yeah.
I'll just call it ham hocks, macaroni cheese, cornbread. Oh, you know what we love, because I had some candy yams and collard greens and cornbread yesterday. I didn't have the ham hocks, but it was the greens were cooked in turkey. But hey, if I they taste better with ham hocks. They really do.
Well, I have to say that is one area that I have kind of really been very strict on myself with over the years. But
You're so good.
well, because I have issues I have to be, aware of. And you have to, when there's something you can do, you have to do it. That's just the way it is. When you know better, you do better, and so on. And I mean, it goes back not only just, I mean, it's ironic that Black History Month is the same month as heart health, because, you know, when you go back in genetically, you know, we've had, you know, we were eating what nobody else would eat. That's what was given to us. And so, you know, over the years and generations, we've learned to make them into delicacies. I mean, really, but they weren't the best thing for us. And then there's this whole thing that of genetic traumas that happen. That's a whole big old other story to go on, that I learned about at a getting some CEUs from this doctor in what's called Drew Medical Center here in California, and he had some amazing information. I mean, it just really totally blew my mind how that plays in together. But nevertheless, I'm gonna like, what about in your family? Is there like a history of heart issues in your family?
No. No. Let me say no. Let me take that back. I had an uncle who died of a heart attack early, but he lived his lifestyle. He was not an overweight, but he was an excessive drinker, which is one of those risk factors, excessive drinking. And because he was so focused on his drinking, he had a poor diet. Not overweight, he just neglected his diet. And so that's another one of the risk factors. And so he actually went to the emergency room with chest pains and died sitting in the waiting area of the emergency room. But that's it. My mom didn't, well, you know what? My mom didn't have heart disease, but she did die of a heart attack. It was sudden, but she was.
So she
always having. I'm sorry.
Then she died from a heart attack. Then she did have heart disease. It just wasn't documented.
She didn't have it documented. She had no symptoms. And so the official word was a heart attack, but she died a month after my stepdad died. And I just always knew that. I always just figured that if he went, she would go soon after. They would just join at the hip. So, and that's another one of the risk factors, stress, extreme stress. And I know him passing away was extremely stressful for her. And so a month later and she was gone. So, you know, you think about, and she had diabetes. So yeah, you know what, you're right. I'm just thinking this thing on my feet as we go. She had diabetes. That's a risk factor. She was under extreme stress. That's a risk factor. So even though she was never diagnosed with heart disease, she did die of a heart attack.
Right. Well, in my family, it's high blood pressure is very prevalent. And my grandmother, who always joins us, who will be 99 next month, she had her first heart attack at, I think she was just barely 50.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, she's had one heart attack, but she's had 3 strokes. But I mean, you know, as you know, grandma's doing better than me most days.
And I can hardly keep up with her.
She is, yeah. And she never, up until 10 years ago when she moved in with me, she wasn't paying attention to no kind of body's diet at all. She was doing everything she was big enough to do and more. And she still would be doing it too if it wasn't. She calls me, what does she call me? Sergeant or parole officer or police or something.
Love it.
I'm trying to keep her here selfishly, okay?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I did change a lot of the ways that I don't cook. I don't buy pork to cook in anymore. I haven't done it in years. It's turkey. Smoked turkey. But still, when I look at myself, some of the risk factors, I am overweight. That is one of the biggest risk factors. And then I have swelling of my hands and feet. That's another risk factor. So, and I need to be moving more. I need to up my physical activity. I do some, but if I were to increase that, it would lessen my my risk factors by a great deal. So knowing it's more than half of the battle, knowing what the risk factors are and what you can do to change them, because none of us want to be a statistic. None of us want to have that as our reality. I can tell you that. Neither heart attack nor stroke.
Yeah, exactly. And because we do know better, we do know, I mean, overweight is something that I have fought with my entire adult life. And it's, very prevalent in my family, high blood pressure and heart disease. And I mean, but we fail to realize that heart health impacts so many other, every part of our system. And you said diabetes, that is, definitely going to impact your heart. Then you have, along with that, kidney failure. And I always tell people, if you have diabetes and hypertension, you got to get control of at least one of them, because those two factors together is just gonna is not good at all. I mean, but we can do something about it. I mean,
yes. And according to and most of us don't do anything until we get that first terrifying something. I know I'm getting a little. Are you getting that?
I just heard you kind of come in and out.
I turned it off. I turned it off. It's not a feedback, so I'm not sure what it was. But the Go Red for Women's website will tell you that a lot of women have no symptoms until they drop. Okay, and so and they don't have to have, even though we know some of the risk factors, women are less likely to have the chest pains and the symptoms than a man does. And so sometimes we misdiagnose it. We think we have gas. We think we have what they call it, heartburn. We think that we're just tired. And really we are, but we just think it's just, life catching up with us, and we self-diagnose. And unfortunately, some of us don't get a second chance. That's the bitter reality of it. Some of us just don't get another chance because we're not paying attention. Okay. Mm-hmm. And usually, though, looking back, if it's not the worst case scenario and a person lives through a heart attack, they can look back and see the risk factors. Usually, even though they didn't know what to look for before, they can look back and see, well, that right there was a little sign. That was a little sign, that kind of thing. I was under a lot of stress. I was too busy to get to the gym. I was, eating on the run instead of eating a healthy diet. And so you can see that the risk factors were there. It just became such a part of your life that you didn't really pay attention to it. And so there was a time, SharenD, I'll be honest, when I thought, do we really need all these months? But yeah, we do need all these months. So because we are busy, we're not paying attention. And a month like this kind of throws it to the forefront for us and almost forces us to say, this is a real thing. It could happen to me or someone I love. And it doesn't, at the very least, once you learn what the symptoms are, you know them. And so you can move forward more intelligently.
One of the major symptoms that women have with a heart attack that men generally don't have, and that we just never think of, is nausea.
Yes.
That's one of the big ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna confess something that is a little embarrassing, but I'm gonna confess. After
nothing but the truth, girl.
Nothing but the truth. After the company that we work for partnered with, Carrie Fisher. I'll let you talk about that, Sharon. Carrie Fisher was a prime example. After the company that we work for partnered with Go Red for Women for a few years span, I started paying more and more attention to the symptoms and the heart disease. And so I remember once having what I thought were symptoms, and I thought, oh my God, am I having a heart attack? So I went back to my computer, I Googled it, and I pulled up the symptoms, and yes, I had several of them. Like I said, I don't have a trick mirror. I know I'm overweight. Okay. I know that I have the swelling in I've never had high blood pressure, but I have swelling in my hands and feet. And I know I was under stress, and I really got really scared. Didn't go away. I took antacids and things that I thought would over the counter that would help, and it persisted. So I finally I got my son to drive me to the emergency room, and all of the websites say if you have one or more of these symptoms and you're in doubt, go to the emergency room. Don't take a chance. Just go. So I got there. And it was a false alarm. I had to sit in the emergency room. They pulled me back fast. And but in the end, it was a false alarm. And I apologized to the medical staff. I said, I know you have people out there with real issues and that. I apologize. And the nurse said, don't ever apologize for that. I'd rather have 1 million people in here with a false alarm than one who didn't pay attention and ended up dead. And so she was like, well, who's going to take you home? I said, my son is out there. She said, if you didn't do it for anybody else, I'm so glad you did it for your son and the people who love you. Oh, my God, I'm getting choked up. She was really heartfelt about that. So don't be embarrassed. You know what? You're thinking, I don't want to go to the hospital and it's gas. Go to the hospital. Okay. Nothing they haven't seen before.
This is something that my mother-in-law, she was having, she doesn't like to take medication. She doesn't like to be very compliant with her doctor. And, she was having some symptoms that, could have been like stroke symptoms. And I told her, keep aspirin, regular aspirin, at your house. Always keep regular aspirin, not maybe even if you're on low dose, have a regular dose, the 325, I think it is, of aspirin. And she says, oh no, I can't take that because that'll give me heartburn. My doctor said always take, because I don't always take the coated. Well, if you're having a stroke or heart attack, the heartburn is way down on the list from a heart attack. So you take the aspirin, even if it's going to give you heartburn or whatever, but you need to have the uncoated one so that it dissolves, because the coating causes it to dissolve slowly and you need it to dissolve quickly. So make sure you have the aspirin, but only that it's not the coated, because we're not worried about your stomach if you're having a heart attack. That's minor.
No, we're not. And just to piggyback off what you said, if you don't have a bottle of aspirin in your house, oh my goodness, get a bottle. They sell them at the dollar store. The next point is check the expiration date, because I started keeping a bottle of aspirin in my house, but because it was there for just such occasions, it's not what I normally use for a headache or, for body aches. I started noticing that they expire fast. They do. They don't have the shelf life sometimes of the other pain medicines. So check the expiration date and change it out. It's $1 in the dollar store and it's $2 or $3 in Walmart. There's no reason why any of us keep one in the car, keep one in your bathroom. And if you are in doubt, take one. And then get to the emergency room or call 911. It's okay. Even if it's a false alarm, it's better to be wrong 100 times than to be to be happening and you wait until it's too late.
Right. And what Martin said about Carrie Fisher. I mean, yes, Carrie Fisher, we have to look at, you have to look at the big picture. I mean, she had so many things going on that, your heart can only take so much. I mean, and years and years of partying, years and years of drinking, and she went up and down in her weight as well, which is just as unhealthy as being overweight, going up and down, up and down. Put my glasses on because Martin has a lot to say here. Incredibly fit. My uncle was incredibly fit. He was an old school Italian, lived in Italy his whole life. Last year he passed away. He went for a walk in the morning, got home, sat down in his armchair with a newspaper. My auntie asked him, or jumped away. Annie asked him if he wanted a cup of coffee. He said yes. So she went to make it. When she returned, he was sat upright and the paper in his hand, dead. Yeah, it's that quickly. Heart attacks can always be instant. You don't necessarily have signs and symptoms. You must look after your heart. And that's true. It can be just like that. But Martin, there were symptoms. It's just that he wasn't paying attention to them. Even things like snoring is a symptom. Rapid heartbeat, just so many things that are definitely symptoms, but we don't always put them together. So yeah, but I'm so sorry that you lost your uncle. We just don't want to lose people that way. That's why we're tackling these little subjects that might help somebody somewhere to be able to to stay off something like that. But yeah, and we have so much information. I'm looking at right now the Go Red for Women, and it tells you, know your risk factors, know your numbers, and that means your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your cholesterol. It tells you, about the different things that happen and so forth, and what you need to do to be able to be on top of it. It's so many things.
Wealth of information. You will also find that, I remember reading an article that says that most heart attacks happen on Monday. Why is that? The stress of returning to work on Monday is likely the reason why more heart attacks happen on Monday. Because the first time I thought it's an urban legend, it's a myth. But I actually went out and did the research. It does enough for it to show up in the statistics. Enough of a jump on Monday to show up in the statistic. And so so definitely knowing that if you're having your symptoms on a Monday, be extra vigilant, especially when it's
the time of day too. My husband, who's no longer a paramedic. Well, he's a paramedic, but he doesn't work as a paramedic now. He would tell me that heart attacks and strokes happen primarily before noon.
Yes,
and there's a couple of reasons for that. And I think on the weekend, it's also, on the weekend, we do things that we may not do all week that kind of precipitates that too, to being a big thing. But the morning time is, and he would tell me is that a lot of times they would find people who've had a heart attack, and guess where they would be found? In the bathroom. Because something that we take as very simple, not a big deal, straining ourselves, it can just really be a big deal. Really, that's so simple, but it can really, really impact your life.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So before noon, and in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a relative who died. She had a heart attack in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Somebody heard a thump. She hit the floor. Yeah. So I didn't know that was a statistic, though. I didn't know that was a statistic. So we've talked about, a good bit. We've talked about the symptoms. We talked about the risk factors. And it's also important to know that you could be in bed at night. You can be, even though there are spikes in the statistics, it actually can happen anywhere for any reason. You could be lying in bed. You could have just gotten up in the bathroom, on your way to work, in a car. Okay. Yes, I know someone who had a heart attack behind the wheels of the car, and it ran off the side of the road. And the doctor determined that there was nothing that he hit. He had a heart attack while driving. Right. And so it can happen anywhere, but being the biggest thing is to start paying attention to your risk factors and knowing what the symptoms are, so that if they should show up, you can make an informed decision fast. Those are the two biggest things to me.
Exactly. Now I'm going to go to the fact that, we have to utilize the tools that we have, which is our insurance. Our insurance has, programs for educational information, for diabetes, for heart, for dietitians, all of those things that can help you to be better on top of what's going on in your life, and know them and see them and be able to make changes and so forth. I had this conversation with someone very dear to me just recently that, you're going to have to go get yourself in one of those dietitian programs, learn what you need to know, and you and your wife both go. So, because she does the cooking, it's not going to do you any good to know it, and she doesn't know it. Or, everybody in your household needs to be able to be on board. Now, locally this weekend, the Senior Center in Altadena is doing a free screening. So if you live in this area, drop by. But even if you don't live in this area, look it up, because this is Heart Health Month, and there's health fairs everywhere on the weekend. Put the kids in the back seat, let's make it a day and just go ahead and do it. Set that example for your family, that you're worth it, you're valuable, and taking care of you is very important. We've got a lot of comments here. Martin asks, Go for Red, what is that? That is a Pacific program that looks at how heart attacks affect women. And so a number of companies have backed that program to
organization,
show that women need to be aware of it, because for many, many years, it was just thought that women do not have heart attacks. It was only men. Go for Red Women's Luncheon, Stacy says. Yeah, that's an excellent thing to do. But my friend is at a Go for Red event in Rhode Island. Yeah, I have many friends who are part of that red dress thing, and that kind of signifies a couple things for us. But red, that it's just bringing awareness to it. Everybody, male, female, and even children. Do you know that children are getting hypertension like at the early age of 6, and it's dietary and hereditary factors, but dietary can be controlled, and just giving it up and saying, it's in my family, there's nothing I can do. No, there's something you can do. You can learn what fats are the best to eat. You can learn there are foods that are just as good as medicine to help your body repair itself and so forth. Hello, Delina Williams. She's saying hi to us. We've got a lot of people popping on today to see what this is about, because you're hearing information everywhere this month, but take time and smell the roses. Red, whatever their color are, smell them and take heed, because it's not going to affect you when you're gone, but you're going to leave people who you owe to be here for. So I beg you.
Yes. And even if you are not one of the people with the risk factors, it won't hurt to know what they are, because all of us know and love someone who does have them. Every one of us know and love someone who has the risk factors. And so it just, it would be a loving thing to know, so that, somebody is paying attention. Somebody needs to be paying attention. I will say that. All right. So
I'm saying about the strain on the heart, the tachycardia is fast heart rate and bradycardia is a slow heart rate. And both of them have, neither one of them are good. So both of them are something that you need to be, aware of, that they impact your health. Know what the difference is between the numbers. Have this conversation with your doctor. What does the top number mean and what does the bottom number mean? The top number is the systolic, the bottom is the diastolic, and they mean very different things. So you have those conversations, check out these health fairs. They'll give you all the information that you can ever think you never need. And make sure that you can, give it to somebody that, get a bag for you and get 2 or 3 bags for somebody else, because it's the number one health killer of women. I mean, even over breast cancer and all of the major cancers that come up under that, they are all below heart attacks for women.
They sure are. They sure are. And what was I going to say? Oh, my thought just went right out of my head.
I'm sorry, I got on a roll.
It wasn't you, honey. Senior moment. Senior moment. What was I going to say? It must not have been that important if I can't remember what it was.
It'll come back to you
later. If I think of it and it's important, I'll put it in the comment section. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I think we covered, what we wanted to cover. You're going to post the link for Go Red for Women in the comments.
And for Martin, I'm going to post links that are also for men as well, because we want to cover everyone, and even links for children to be able to know what to look for in kids, because we don't think of that, and it happens.
And especially if they're ill. I think I was having a conversation recently, and somebody said, well, how do people die of the flu? And I said, they die of a heart attack because their heart is stressed. And so sometimes there were already risk factors that they didn't know or pay attention to. And then the flu came in and just stressed their immune system. And you know what? 23-year-olds are dropping dead from a heart attack during the flu. But okay, there are other factors under there that somebody was not paying attention to. Okay, high stress job in corporate America, you get the flu, you think you can't stop, you got to keep going, you got to keep running, and then you go, you call 911 because you can't breathe, and you've had a heart attack. And somebody says, how can a flu kill a 20-year-old? Or how can I know for me? I had a 3-week-old child who had a stroke. His blood pressure went up, heart stopped, had a stroke. So age is something that, is, it's kind of like a guidelines, but there are exceptions to every rule. So don't think that children can't get stressed out and have heart attacks, especially in this day and age. Peer pressure, okay, social media pressure, all kind of stress. Kids are more stressed these days than any other thing. And we fast food because mommy is stressed out and at work, and it's easy to stop at Mickey D's on the way home. And so, it is showing up earlier and earlier and earlier.
Yes, definitely. And that's something that you have to do early, is start your kids learning how to cook and eat healthy. I mean, I kind of get a little buzzed about this one because my kids grew up primarily being a vegetarian in my house, but they would call around to their friends and their grandpa, you barbecuing some ribs? And they would find them some ribs or whatever they wanted to eat. But I figured, okay, if they're eating healthy, strictly healthy here at home, the occasional things is not going to be that big of a deal. But then when they became grown-ups and got married and so forth, they just went totally off the wagon, and it just now they're getting close to 40, and they are starting to see that maybe mommy had something here. Okay.
I was the exact opposite of from you, Sharon. I was like, let them have all the candy they want. And then when they get grown, it will be no big deal and they won't care for sweets at all. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
They don't care for sweets at all.
Really? Okay. So I would do the opposite.
I'm a rebel. I was like, hey, you want some candy? Here's a whole bag. I know.
We had a routine that, like, as soon as the time changed, we would be in the Rose Bowl, because we lived really close to the Rose Bowl. As soon as the time changed, we would, the three of us, we'd be in the Rose Bowl walking that 3.25 mile, every day as soon as mommy got home from work. And, they both are active, and we're always active as teenagers doing things and so forth. But still, you have to fight off genetics, and you can fight off genetics, but you have to have a plan, and you have to have, the tools to do it. So that's what this is about.
Since you mentioned genetics, African American women lead, even though women as a whole have more heart attacks, African American women are still in that group, number one. And then white women, and then it's Hispanic, and then finally Asian, Native American, Native Alaskan island women. Those come last within that group of women, but African Americans are the biggest group by far.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. And so that is the genetics factor coming in there.
Right. Martin, we don't want you to be quiet. We're enjoying your conversation.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for joining us and being here. But and then what's interesting is that when you say African Americans do not have hypertension and diabetes issues on the scale that we do. No.
Not on the scale that we do.
And not even close. So there was an interruption there, and that's kind of what that doctor I was telling you about at Drew was talking about, the interruption of our genetics that happened, that caused a change in the way we eat and the way we metabolize things and so forth, because African Americans have way higher incidence of diabetes and hypertension and heart disease than Africans. So. Yeah, but because they claim also that the best diet is a Mediterranean diet in terms of healthy eating, the correct kinds of oils, the seasonings that are called warm seasonings, that those are healing seasonings. Yeah. So
that would explain why the Pacific Islander women are the lowest group out of the whole, and when it comes to the number of a heart disease that have heart disease. So I didn't know why, but they are the lowest of the women.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. We're just about to the end. Culture and diet make a huge difference. It does. Yeah, it does. And ironically, the way to overcome the culture is with the diet and exercise.
And that doesn't necessarily mean running a marathon, movement, period. Walking, doing something, for at least 30 minutes where you are getting your heart rate kind of elevated there. I mean, there's this, you can learn more about that in terms of what is the specific heart rate you need to get to and all of that. But just movement, some of us are on the couch with a bag of Cheetos, binge watching TV for the weekend. And that is, the worst thing we can do. It doesn't have to be climb a mountain, run a marathon, but it does just move your body. Move it.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks for joining us. He had to go.
Okay.
I think that might be our cue too, Miss Sharon.
Yes, we have gone way over, but again, this is something that need to be said.
Yeah. You know
And
us. We'll say the
we,
hard things. We will.
we
All
do
right.
try
So
to bring a little value to the table.
yes, little value with some humor, with a dose of humor is what we tend to aim to bring. So we don't
Yes.
have a topic for next week yet, but we know it will be something timely. And again, we will keep to our formula of bringing value with mixed in with a pinch of humor. And so we'll announce it the early part of next week, I'm sure. Correct, Miss West Coast Beauty?
Yes, we will. We've got a number of requests. We still have the teenager thing we've been avoiding.
Oh my goodness.
We'll have to work out before that one.
Because teenagers are in the news really big this week.
Yes, that is definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
It's much harder than it was when we were kids. It just is.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Much harder.
Yeah. Okay.
Alrighty.
So are we at the end of another exciting episode?
I think we are, Lisa, on the East Coast.
Okay. Well, then, I will get us started on closing out by saying you have been watching, if you're on the replay, you have been watching an episode of Coast to Coast Beauty. And please leave a comment and let us know that you listened to the replay, and we would really appreciate it. And until next week, this is Lisa Washington, your East Coast Beauty. And I want to say,
and this is SharenD Davis on the West Coast, and I'm going to do the same.
Bye.